topic 4 of managing a web server, which is actually class 3 because we combined topics 1 and 2 in week 1 because topic 1 was very boring, so I thought we'd just join it together with topic 2 and make it more interesting. So this is about backups, backing up things and accessing a web server. And as per the previous weeks, I have the Debian web server here ready to go. I suppose I could log it in. Actually, I will log it in. I'm going to make a little configuration change because it's got this annoying setting that if you leave it sitting for a while, logs it out. And I'm going to show you how to turn that off. So to turn that off, we'll just wait till it's stopped going in and out of... oh, I think I just resized myself. Right, resize this. Okay, so to turn that off, we want to go Settings, and we want to look for Power, which is here, Blank Screen, Never, Automatic Suspend, Never, and that'll stop it from doing that. So when I come back in 10 minutes or something, I won't have to log in again. So to do that, Settings, Power, Settings, and Power, and Blank Screen off. I guess you could set it to 15 minutes if you wanted to, but I don't really know what the point in that is because the virtual machine, surely if you were going to be blanking any screen, you'd be blank the screen of the host machine rather than the virtual machine. So there we go. So right, so let's just get the terminal open. No doubt we'll be in there at some point, and let's put that away. So tar is the first thing. Now we've probably talked about this already in network security concepts, or definitely we've talked about zip before. So we're just going to look in a little bit more detail into this program. So tar tape archive, okay, gzip and bzip too, fun names, aren't they? So tar, yeah, this has got nothing to do with the subject. I just put this in. Basically, this is tar on a road being steamrolled by some people here, and this is a tape archive. All right, and that's just a humorous caption that I added there for effect. It's nothing to do with the subject. So tar, right, creates an archive file, okay, a tape archive, right. Tar stands for tape archive. Put myself up here. There we go. Sometimes this is called a tar ball, and you can imagine like getting some tar on the road and rolling it up into a snowball in a very abstract sense. So it combines multiple files into one. Why would that be useful? Well, let's say you had 1,000 files and you wanted to archive those 1,000 files. Wouldn't it be easier if I told you you have to archive one file? So with tar, what we can do is we can archive files together into one and then store them in historically what used to be on a tape, okay, but not anymore. We don't store them on a tape anymore. Well, sometimes we do. Like I said, when I worked in that bank, I accidentally broke a load of servers and they had to pay a company to go into a vault and get a tape out. And they weren't happy about that, but I thought it was quite amusing because they had to pay $400 to get the tape back out. So to create a tar file, it's really easy. You just do tar space hyphen hyphen or minus minus create space minus minus file, and then you put equals the name of the archive and then the things that you want to put into the archive. So isn't that straightforward? Tar, create, file, the name of the file you're going to create, the archive. Now you don't actually have to call it archive.tar. You could call it like elephant.kangaroo if you liked, but then that would be quite annoying for people who came in your like in the future if you gave them all stupid names. So generally it's better.
Could you archive directories? Just archive all the files in the directory?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
Yeah, you can archive directories. Yeah. So let's just say we didn't want, like, let's just say life was too short and we didn't want to type minus minus create minus minus file. We could just do tar minus c minus f. Okay, which minus c is shorthand for minus minus create, and minus f is shorthand for minus minus file equals. Okay, so isn't that easy? So we do tar minus c minus f archive.tar, and then what we're putting in to the archive. Okay, but imagine there was an even shorter shortcut and we could just do tar minus cf. Tar create file, name of file, and things to go inside tar. Now, there are two more things you can add. There's this thing called v, and v stands for verbose, or verbose. I don't know exactly that. Usually verbose. And what verbose means is it just means tell me what you're doing while you're doing it. Okay, so read out as you create this archive, print out to the screen what you're doing. And then that's it. Now let's say you wanted to untar something. You just change the C to an X, and that means extract. Okay, so let's go create a tar. So let's fire in here, right? No software updates, go away. We've got any directories? We've got the words directory. Let's make another one called makedir archive underscore test. CD to archive test. ls, nothing in there, so let's just make a couple of files. File 1, be another reply to those emails I forgot to send, and file 3. Okay, so let's list those out. So we got an archive folder and we got 3 files. Oh, and I've spelt file wrong. Consistently 3 times I've spelt file wrong. So let's just mv fly1 to file 1, and let's just repeat that again, and let's repeat that again. mv just move, and let's do clear, and let's list that. There we go. File 1, file 2, and file 3. What imaginative names. So as per the slide here, tar cf, so let's do tar minus cf. Then we need to give it a name, so we're going to say, let's call it my underscore fun underscore archive dot tar. Again, doesn't have to be .tar, but just by convention it's easier for people in the future when they're dealing with your server if you haven't given things idiotic names. My fun archive dot tar, and then we're just going to say what we're going to put in there. File 1, file 2, file 3, and then let's just press the enter key. And now if we do ls, we now have a file called myfunarchive.tar, and inside that file is file 1, file 2, and file 3, which is going to be considerably easier to back up than backing up 3 individual files, isn't it? Now, that was the first method. Let's just try something else. So if we do tar minus, you always do f last, right? But if we do cvf myfunarchive.tar, and let's call it myfunarchive2.tar, the second of the fun archives, and let's just press return, you'll notice that it lists out what it's doing. Okay, verbose just means and also tell me what you're putting in the archive. Alright, right, so now we should have 2 archives. Okay, and notice they've come up in red. So let's just look at that. It usually indicates some kind of permissions issue. So let's, well, not permissions issue, but it's indicating to you that there's permissions on there. So let's do ls. You'll notice that only I have read write on these. So this is specific to me. All right. So if we were to change .tar and just clear this off. If we look at the permissions now, we'll see that we have we've changed that. See, it's come up green, means anyone can run it. Now, let's move that file. Okay, so cp myfunarchive.tar to /home Michael downloads. Okay, so CP, and then let's change to /home Michael downloads, and let's list there. We'll see that we have the archive. Now let's extract tar minus extract verbosely my file, and then my funarchive.tar, and if we press return, you'll see it's telling us that it's these 3 files, and if we do ls, we go like that, and there's the 3 files extracted there. So there we go. So what we did was we made an archive, moved it, extracted it. Now the good thing about this is you can move this archive to any other server anywhere around. So this is quite useful if you wanted to, say for example, back up a website or something like that, which is what we're trying to do in this course. So here's some examples. tar cvf docs.tar home Bob documents. We'll back up Mr. Bob's documents. Okay, create a backup of Bob's music. tar cvf bobsmusic.tar home Bob music. Restore a backup of Bob's documents to the current directory. tar extract verbosely the file docs.tar. Okay, you don't have to put the v, but sometimes it's kind of nice if it lists out what it's actually extracting, because you might be extracting the wrong one or something like that. So it's handy to see. Okay, so the setback to tar, there is a setback. Like with every great piece of software, there always comes some kind of a catch, and the catch is that tar doesn't compress the data at all. So if you have 3 files and they're 10 bytes each, you make a tarball, it's going to be about 30 bytes. Now that doesn't matter if you're doing like file 1, file 2 and file 3, but if you're dealing with like terabytes of data, that could be quite annoying, because if you have 3 terabytes of data and you make a tar of 3 terabytes of data, you're going to have 6 terabytes of data, which is not optimal if you only have 10 terabytes of storage. So you're going to quickly run out. So what we need to do is we need to add on some kind of method of compressing the tar archive. And we can do that, thankfully, there's a few different methods. The thing is, in Windows, when you make a RAR file or when you make a zip file, okay, those are archive, but they're also doing compression. But in Linux, what you can do with tar is you can choose your own way of doing the compression. You can pick your compression algorithm. So the first one we have is gzip, alright, GNU zip. So what I'll do is tar only combines files into one single file. Gzip only compresses single files, joining them together. So what we can do is we can take tar and we can add gzip to it by doing tar create verbosely and gzip my file. And what we do by convention generally is we make the extension tar.gz. And the reason we make the extension tar.gz is just to tell the people in the future that this is a gzip file. Okay, you don't have to do that. You could just do .tar, but then maybe they won't know that it's a gzip. Okay, so right, so there we go. We can do tar create verbosely and gzip my file, and then give it the thing that we want to gzip. Okay, and then to extract, we don't have to put gzip on the extract, it'll figure it out. We just do tar extract docs tar gzip. So what that does is that creates the tar archive, but it also zips it at the same time. Right, so there's a different compression algorithm, and that's called bzip2. Okay, I got this lovely logo here. I don't know who designs the zipping logos, but so the gzip logo looks like that, and the bzip logo looks like this. bzip2 it's called. Now, bzip2 actually makes the file even smaller. It's a more efficient compression algorithm. And what you can do, you want to create a tar. Generally we use tar.bz as the extension. We don't have to. We can use bz2 as well. I suppose bz2 makes more sense. Let me just put a 2 there. So now, counterintuitively, when we want to make a bzip2 archive, we use the letter J. Alright. Don't ask me why, it's not. Probably B was already taken. So it's tar create verbosely bzip2 file and then docs tar bz2. Okay, this is optional. You just put this on just for kind of, I don't know, best practice, let's say. And then to extract is the exact same. So I can hear you saying in your head, why would you use gzip or why would you use bzip2? Why not just use one? What's the advantage and disadvantage? So apparently, so to make this a bit bigger so you can see. So here is a file, alright, that's been storage gain on files. So tar and bz2 is this size, but tar and gzip is just slightly bigger. There's not that much difference. Bzip's apparently slightly better, okay, but bzip takes longer to do. So gzip's faster, bzip creates smaller archives is the answer. And on the internet you'll generally find bzip files, gzip files all around. So like if we do, for example, man gzip, gzip, gunzip, compress or expand files. You can actually use gzip just on its own to compress a file. The problem is though, gzip only can only compress one file. So that's why you need to use tar to make it into an archive, then zip it. Okay, and apparently it uses this lempel-ziv coding, which is some kind of compression algorithm. Okay, and so you can read all about it in the man file if you like. And also, if we go into man tar, you'll see that. So C is create, and if we go down and find where J is, J, A, B, C. No, there isn't B. I don't know why they didn't assign B to bzip, but okay. So J should be here somewhere. G, G, N, N, R, S, K, U, W, O. Where's J? Funny if it just didn't tell you that J exists. P, S, no, F, force, L, M, N. Oh, there's B. It's to do with device blocking or something, to set the block size, which hopefully we'll never have to do. J, there's J there. So filter the archive through bzip2. Okay, there's other options as well. Look, there's lzip, LMA, lzop, no autocompress, gzip, and zstd. But for the purposes of this course and for the purposes of day-to-day reality, we really only need to know about bzip2 and gzip. Okay, but bear in mind there are these other ones, lzma, like less than zero multi. It's usually something to do with lempel-ziv is the algorithm, right? And it's way detailed. Let's just go. We go back to the. Let's just quit and then go back in. You'll see that they use this. Oh, hang on. Let's go in back into man gzip. You'll see it uses this thing called lempel-ziv coding, LZ77. And if we copy that and fire, okay, and then the virtual machine stops responding. Let's just use the real internet then. Filezilla. Okay, we want to look lempel-ziv coding. Oh, lempel-ziv coding. Images. See if we can get a wee diagram or something. Lempel-ziv coding data compression. So there's some kind of data compression algorithm that it runs through, which is probably incredibly complicated. Okay, there's things like ziv complexity. So lempel-ziv Welsh. We go in here. We'll see hopefully some sort of right. So basically what it does is it converts things into binary and then when it finds things that have the same binary representation, it says, okay, one of those, two of those, three of those is roughly how it works. But there's probably quite a lot of maths behind it that we don't really care about, to be honest. But there you go. Lempel Ziv was invented by this guy, Abraham Lempel. There he is there, and Jacob Ziv, and Terry Welsh as well, who apparently they made this up in the 80s. Okay, so those are our different methods of compressing files. Now imagine that we've got our tar archive and we've compressed it, and it's compressed, and we've done that, and everything's fine. What we need to do now, okay, is we need to then move that file. Okay, we don't want to leave the file on the same server that we've backed it up on, because ideally the purpose of actually backing up a file is that we can move it to someplace else. So then you think, right, okay, so we need to move the file from one to the other, and I think we might have touched on this a little bit in one of the other classes. So this is when we're going to use secure copy. So secure copy will allow us to take the file and send it to another computer somewhere else. So I'm just going to very, very quickly get another computer ready. So let's just make dir, and we'll make this, we'll call this the backup underscore server. Make dir backup server, and I'll just cd into make dir, cd into backup server, and cd into make dir. Right, so we've got nothing in here at the moment. Now this computer is on a different IP address from the server, so let's just grab that, and let's grab the server, and let's put those kind of, what would you call it, side to side, or near each other. Okay, now the problem at the moment is, if I do on the server, if I just quit, oh, the entire server, the entire VM has actually crashed. Great, let's just force a wee reboot on this. Good thing about this is it's not Windows, so you can aggressively reboot it at will, and it'll hopefully not die, although I don't like the oh yeah, here we go, and it's back. There. If you did that to a Windows server, it'd be about 20 minutes waiting for it to do errors and why did you reboot me, and I am sorry, and please update Windows, and the Windows Defender firewall is complaining about the, but thankfully we can just forcefully reboot this at will and it won't complain. There we go. And 3, 2, 1, we're back. Good. Right, so let's get the terminal open. Now, if I look at the IP address of this machine, we'll see it's on this very unusual 172 address. And if I look at the address of this machine, we'll see that it's on a 192, where are we? 192.168.1.131. So at the moment, we're on different subnets. And the reason we're on different subnets is because my local machine and this, this is NAT behind my local machine. So I'm just going to go into settings. I'm going to go to the network adapter, and I'm going to stick it on bridged. Okay, what that's going to do is that's going to ask my local router at home here to give it an IP address, my OpenWRT router. So save, and then if we do IPA, it's probably still going to be on that same address. So let's just do another aggressive reboot. Easiest thing to do, just reboot it. We could shut networking down and like turn networking back on, but the easiest thing to do, considering it only takes 10 seconds, is just to reboot the whole machine, and then we'll see if we get an IP address from the router through there rather than some kind of internal NAT IP address from VMware. So let's just, here we go, it's back. So let's do login, and hopefully we have an IP address that is local to the machine. So let's do IPA, and we do 145. Okay, good. So now we're on the same subnet as my computer here. And right, so let's grab the other terminal, and let's just do ping 192.168.1.145, and we can ping the server. Fantastic. Okay, so now that we have a backup server on a different IP address that's in a different room, and we have our mock virtual server, which could be in a data center somewhere, let's look at SCP. So SCP is a protocol that uses SSH to transfer data from one place to the other. Okay, so it uses the SSH protocol, and what we can do is we can do SCP, the name of the file, where we want it to go, and where we want it to land. Okay, so what I'm going to do is on my server here, okay, and let's get the server, we're going to cd, let's just ls for it. So we've got our archive test directory, so let's cd into archive test. Right, so we made myfunarchive.tar. So what I want to do is I want to send myfunarchive.tar to a different location, and we can kind of ramp this up a little bit actually, because if I do IPA on the server, it's 192.168.1.145. So if I get my local terminal here and I just open a new tab, I do SSH Michael at 192.168.1.145, going to ask me to accept the key, fire in the password, and now I'm in to this server over here via SSH. So I've got my local server, which is called MDB01, and I've got my web server, which is called ECMAWS. So let's just, now we can just get rid of this altogether, because we don't really need the graphic environment. We're doing everything in the command line anyway. So here we have two tabs, the backup server and the web server. Alright, and we can see that by the host name at the beginning. Right, so this is one server, this is another server, SSH'd into both. Good. Okay, so let's say I want to SCP my, so CD into the backup archive. First of all, what is it called? Archive test. CD to archive test. I want to SCP myfunarchive.tar to, okay, and let's look back at the slide, the host name at IP address, so Michael at 192.168.1. Is it 135? I think it was 135. Let's just check. It's 131. All right. Okay. 131. And then we want to say where we want it to go. Colon. Okay. And we're going to say, okay, so if I just do on my backup server, I'm going to print working directory. So we want it to go to home Michael backup server. So let's copy that. And over here, let's just do paste. So we're doing secure copy, myfunarchive.tar, username at IP address, colon destination directory. Hopefully this will work. It probably won't. There'll probably be some kind of error, but let's press return. Now it's going to say, do you want to accept the public key? Yes. Added it to the list of known hosts. Now it's going to say, put in the password. Oh wait, that's not the that'll be my actual password. There we go. So what it's said now is it said, yep, 100%, 10 kilobytes, 8.4 meg per second, and it took 0 time. So now over on the backup server, if we type ls, dun, 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 there's myfunarchive.tar. So we copied that over the network to the other server using SCP. There's the command there. SCP myfunarchive.tar to space Michael at IP address colon directory. Okay, now this is very useful. You could write scripts to do this, and every night they could be pulling things, SCPing things over there. So SCP just means SSH and copy. Okay, probably got more of an official name. SCP Open SSH Secure File Copy is the official name, and there's copies files between hosts on networks, uses SSH, and we'll ask for passwords for authentication. Now, remember, we could turn off password authentication as we looked at in the other class. We could turn on key-based authentication. Then if the server had the key and you had the key, you could just do SCP and it would go and just work. Okay, and there's all sorts of other options as well, IPv6 and compression enable, cipher, choose a different cipher, SSH config. And I've worked in companies before where they had huge SCP commands with all sorts of options, and do this, and use this certificate, and do this. But we can just, look, you can even limit the bandwidth in kilobits. I don't know why you'd want to do that, but okay. Oh wow, look, there's a lot of options. There's a lot of options there. Another common one is to specify the port number. Generally, you would have a different port for doing this or something. Okay, so, right, so that's SCP. So hopefully that's pretty easy. SCP, broke the slide there, name of the file, username, at IP address, and then where you want to copy it to. Now you can do it the other way around. On the remote host, you can pull the file towards you. Okay, so on the remote host you can say SCP file in this direction, but for some reason I find it more logical to send the file. I find it's more logical to send it, but you can go and get it and pull it. It works in both directions. Okay, just a little bit. If you were doing it the other way around, you'd have to do SCP username at and then the file, and then after it, like where you wanted to copy it to. I personally, I find it much easier to send the file to a server than to bring the file towards a server for some reason. It's just, if you're backing stuff up, it just seems logical to be sending it to the backup server rather than not being on the backup server and drawing the files in. But it depends. Some people's brains might be wired the other way around, and they might think, actually, no, my backup server goes and gets the backups. Okay, so here's a couple of examples. SCP Bob at 192.168 home Bob documents file 1. Copy a file from a remote. So that's go and get a file and copy it to the current directory. Okay, copy a file from the current directory to the backup server. SCP file 1 Bob at 192.168, and then the name of the file that you want to copy. Okay, SCP examples. So SCP isn't the only protocol that we can use for copying files, and the limitation of SCP, as with tar, is you can only copy one file. Okay, so that's why you need some kind of software to make the files into an archive so you can SCP them over the network. But let's say you were told, no, you're not doing that. You've got 1,000 files and they'll stay 1,000 files, and there's nothing you can do about it. You must copy each one at a time. You could say, well, I could write a script for file in directory SCP like that, but not really. Then you're just hacking solutions together. There is a different protocol called FTP, which we don't use anymore, and its improved cousin SFTP. So the SFTP, some people mistakenly think it stands for Secure File Transfer Protocol. It doesn't actually stand for SSH File Transfer Protocol. Now, SFTP is much cleverer than SCP. It can copy multiple files, and SFTP can even deal with if the connection drops in the middle of it. SFTP will stop copying and then it can continue afterwards, and it even checks that the files arrived and all that. SCP is just fire and forget. It's just like, there's your file. Did the network go down? I don't know. I don't care. I just copied it and there it goes. So SFTP is much more full-featured, shall we say. So FTP originally used port 21, and we don't use that anymore, like we don't use Telnet anymore, because it just sent the file in plain text over the network, port 21. Okay. Then there was a sort of halfway replacement for FTP called FTPS, where you added on an SSL certificate to secure it. And then the better version is the SSH file transfer protocol, SFTP. Okay, so SFTP. So you can actually use SFTP on the command line. It's actually got its own command shell. I'm going to type it into the terminal, and I bet you it's not going to work. But let's just go for it on the web server. So SFTP. See if it's installed. Oh, okay, it is installed. SFTP. So you can SFTP files. It's got a lot more options. Let's do man SFTP. So OpenSSH secure file transfer. So there's SFTP is a file transfer program similar to FTP, but it uses public key authentication and compression. And look, there's the kind of, it's telling you do SFTP and then the user at the host and the port and the path. Okay, so now I haven't done this for a couple of years, so I could just try and guess, and let's grab that and see if I can just guess an SFTP command. Q. Okay, let's do SFTP, and we'll do Michael at, and it's host. So let's do 192.168.1.131 port 22 path. We'll do colon, and we'll do, let's go back over here and do, where's my other terminal? Here it is, here. Print working directory, pwd, home Michael archive test. Will let me copy that? Am I allowed? Thank you. So backup server, oh, it was doing it on the actual server, okay. Do I want to do this, or is it going to be an epic fail? Yeah, I'll try it. Okay, so there's the path. So we want to do SFTP Michael at 192.168.1.131 colon home Michael archive test. But then how do we say what it is we're copying? Do we then give it the name of the file? Let's just do my fun archive 2. Okay. Let's leave this just now, because I'm going to get into deep water with this, and I'm going to end up copying the file somewhere. Let's not go too deeply into this, but let's just say you can do this from the command line. But generally on the command line, it's much easier to use FTP. But I have worked places where they've had giant SFTP commands as well. Let's just move forward, because I don't want to get this I don't want this to be too boring. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use SFTP to connect to the server. Okay, so we know the server is on 145. So if I do SFTP Michael at 192.168.1.145, it's going to ask me for the password. Right, it's logging me in here to an SFTP shell. Now, I think if I do question mark, it's going to give me the possible answers. Here's all the possibilities of what we can do. Change group by, to quit SFTP, type by. List working directory, make dir, print working directory. Print working directory. So what this is like an SFTP shell that it's given me when I've connected. And as you can see, there's a lot more stuff than just basic old SCP. So here's a little diagram of SFTP versus FTP. So we can see that there's a ciphertext and stuff happening. And now what we're going to do is use a program, and hopefully, I think you might have used this before, but if not, it's important for this class. In general, web designers and web developers and graphics people don't use, they're not in the command line all day typing SFTP, do this, do that. They use an application, and there are two very common ones to use. The first one is called Filezilla. Okay, so hopefully you might have heard of this before, but if not, we'll have a look at how to set up Filezilla. So what I think I might do is I might actually fire up my Windows 10 library, VM, view, customize, library. Fire up my old Windows 10 machine here so that we can Because it's all very well me hacking things together between two like random Linux machines that I have open, but let's fire up Windows 10 and then we can try and connect to the web server using Windows 10 to go in and mess about with the files. So hopefully this isn't too painful. It'll let me log in. I don't know. Will it let me log in? Who knows? Windows 10 after all. Windows might have done an update during the night and decided to break the entire thing. Let's just see what happens. Thinking about it. Come on, Windows. Come on. Alright, that was suspicious. So let's open Chrome. Yeah? Gonna let me open Chrome today? It's just guesswork with Windows, isn't it? I've tried to make it the default browser about 10 times, right? And it brings me to this other menu where it's like, you must set this up or what. I'm just like, well, no, I'm not going to do that. So you either make it the default browser or you don't. Right, so here's our Windows 10 VM running over here. Let's just kind of balance this out. So let's say I'm a Windows user and I want to connect to a server to download a tar file that I made. But I don't want to have to go into the command line and SSH because I didn't go to university and study computer science, and I think that the command line is a horrible place where only really strange people do things. So let's go install Filezilla. Let's go and let's accept some of these arbitrary and let's close Microsoft Teams. Yeah, gonna leave me alone please, thank you. So Filezilla, free FTP solution. Download Filezilla. Download Filezilla. What do I want to do? Standard. Yes. Let's do standard Filezilla. Download it. Right. Oh, thank you for downloading Filezilla. Look at this guy. He's using a Mac. That's why he's so happy. Right, so let's open it's not a PC, it's a Mac. So just to let you know. Right, so let's just minimize a few windows and agree to that. Loading data. Do we want the AVG secure browser? No, hell no. Do we want to make this software available for everyone? Yeah, anyone. It was only me that uses this. It's a virtual machine, but okay. Do we want icon sets? Yes. Do we want language files? Nah. Do we want like German and stuff? Swahili? Let's just leave that. Do we want a desktop icon? Go on. Why not? Where will it install? There we go. Do not create shortcuts. Do create shortcuts, please. Very strange installer on. I've not installed something on Windows for ages, apart from Microsoft Word. I forgot that they tell you that. Right, start Filezilla. Okay, so here's Filezilla starting. There we go. Look, it's the open source FTP solution. Right. Okay. So now, let's say we wanted to connect to the server. We could just fire that in up here. Okay, but hold on. Let's just check that the Windows machine is on the same subnet as the server, or we're going to get into hot water very quickly. So let's do cmd, open it up, ipconfig. No, it's on 172. That's annoying. Right, let's do settings and fire this onto bridged as well. And let's do save, and then we can do this in Windows with our classic move of going to the network and sharing center, going to change adapter settings. Oh, it's identifying. Hang on. Oh, do you want your PC to be discoverable? Yes, I do. Right, so now if we do ipconfig, we're on 192.168.1.245. That is strange. My router's giving out 145 and it's giving out 245. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Router. Right. So now we're on 245 and the web server's on 145, I think. Let's just check where the web server is. View, VM. We want the bar at the top with the tabs. Tabs. Ah, here we go. Debian. Right. Let's just check what the IP address of the server is. The IP, okay, so the server's on 145 and the Windows machine is on 245. So what we're going to do with Filezilla is we're going to minimize, go away, go away, go away, connect to the server. So host 192.168.1.145, username Michael, password, port 22, click connect. Do you want to save passwords? Yeah. Connecting. The server's host key is unknown. You have no guarantee that the server is the computer you think it is. Always trust this host. And we're in. Okay. Are we in? Yes, we're in. So if we go into the, let's make this a bit bigger because it's hard to see. So Michael, okay, downloads, music, pictures, video. So I'm trying to find this. Oh, there it is there. Look, there's archive test, and there is my fun archive 2. So if we wanted to make a copy of my fun archive 2 using Windows to my local desktop, I could just go like this. My fun archive 2. Over it comes. Transfer finished. And if I do minimize, there it is there. So now we've got my fun archive 2 on the Windows computer using Filezilla. Okay, and we didn't have to do any command line nonsense. And you'll see that it's using sftp and telling us what it's doing up here. Now, this would be very useful in the other direction. So let's say you spent the afternoon on Photoshop or something designing a graphic for a website. You wouldn't want to then be like, oh, SSH, SCP, whatever. You just log into the web server, okay, and then you, so if we go to root, if we go to www, so var, dub, so there's HTML. So look, there's all our old websites we made. So let's say on your Windows computer you developed a new website. You would just get the website and fire it over there. And there it is over there. Now, oh, it's saying open for write permission denied because we're not root. We're not allowed to just copy in. But we can create users and set permissions. Okay. There's one other piece of software I'm going to show you. And that is WinSCP. So Filezilla is good for SFTP. Here's another Windows program that we can use. Right, download now. Right, who cares? Download. 182 million downloads apparently. WinFCP is a major 5.2 is a major application update. Support for SSH core upgraded to PuTTY. Blah blah blah. Don't care. Download. Right. Hopefully it should. Here we go. So now we have the WinSCP installer about to load. Right, install for all users. Okay, so accept. Typical, let's go for a custom installation. I like to live on the edge here. We want drag and drop. Yeah, we do. PuTTY, gen, key generator. Yeah. Translations. 55 meg of translations. Okay. A lot of the stuff when you download the software is like the other languages. Let's do that. What do we want? Explorer or Commander? I think Commander sounds better than Explorer. And install WinSCP. So now we have launch WinSCP. Do not open the getting started page. I don't care. Right, so here's WinSCP. Now, you'll see it's very similar to Filezilla. So we do 192.168.1.145, username Michael, password, and then we go log in. Do you want to accept the key? Of course I do. Boom, we're in. And there's archive test. Okay, so this is the local folder. Okay, so if I go to desktop, there's my fun archive 2, right? Let's delete my fun archive 2. See you later. And now let's get my fun archive 2 again from the server and let's go, aha. Right, transfer type binary. Do you want to do the transfer? We could do it in text or we could do it in binary. Let's go binary. Boom. And it's over. Okay, so there's another way of doing it. Now that didn't use sftp, that used scp. Okay, WinSCP. So there's two different ways of copying files between things. Actually, there's 4 ways of copying files, because I showed you scp on the command line. I was going to show you sftp on the command line, but it became very complicated. Then I showed you Filezilla, sftp on Windows between Linux, and then WinSCP, SCP between Windows and Linux drag and drop files. So 4 ways to do it. Okay, so that is this. Oh, and just a little bit about 7-zip. 7-zip lets you make zips, but I guess everyone that's used Windows has probably used things like 7-zip, WinRAR, but you're maybe not familiar with WinSCP and Filezilla. Okay, so if you've not used those before, those are useful programs. So what we're actually going to do today, let me just fire open the lab. It should be somewhere. I've got a lab on this that actually teaches you, kind of talks you through how to do it. Let me just get the... So, modules, let's do web server. So this is lab 4, and it's about backups and access, and this will take you through it, because I've gone through it there, but I've gone through it quite quickly. It's better if you try and do it yourself. Copy a file here, copy a file there, and we'll just wait on Google Drive converting it into a doc. Right, so unfortunately I wrote this in like 2019 or something, so it's written in a kind of, it looks a bit dated. I will update it at some point, but a lot of people are chasing me for things at the moment. Actually, let's just convert this into a PDF so it looks a bit better. Okay, save. So in this lab, what you're going to do is just create a little logbook documenting the steps of how you created various backups and things. So let me open it just now, move it over here. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a couple of users on the server. Okay, and those users are going to be called, imaginatively, user A and user B. Okay, so we're going to type add user, user A. Okay, and we're going to switch user to user A, and then we'll be logged in as user A. Then we're going to make a file called test file. Then we're going to check the authenticity of the test file. Now, hopefully we've kind of covered this in network security concepts last year, but we can do MD5 sum, okay, on a file, and we could do it on file 1. Okay, and there's our MD5 sum. Now, what we could do, right? So there's my fun archive 2.tar. If we do MD5 sum on my fun archive 2.tar, okay, it's going to give us this. Now we could use that to verify that my fun archive 2.tar was sent without being tampered with over the network. So that's then we're going to download Filezilla. We're going to create a backup of the test file using tar. Then we're going to use, now I've left this up to you. You can either use Filezilla or you can use WinSCP. I think the difference between them is, apart from the fact one uses sftp and one uses scp, WinSCP, you're more likely to see people that are kind of more networking, kind of cyber security type, kind of more, I don't know what you'd say, more in the direction of technical. And Filezilla, you're more likely to see people more in the direction of web development, designers, that kind of side. So if you imagine it as a spectrum from like hardware engineer to graphic designer, if you imagine that full spectrum of people, the graphic designer side is more like Filezilla, and the kind of hardware engineer side would be more WinSCP. But I would say download them both and have a go with them both. They're both quite good. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new website, okay, on the server. And we're going to put this in a place called new website. That's going to be the name of the folder, okay. And I've put the code to make the new website, and we're deliberately going to make a style sheet, a styles folder, an IMG folder. This is the standard kind of layout of a website. You're going to have an index page, an images folder, a styles folder, maybe not a styles folder, but JavaScript in an assets folder. So we're going to make this website directory, okay, and then we're going to put a basic HTML file in. Now, it doesn't really matter where you make this, okay? Just make it in any folder. But then what we're going to do is we're going to back up the website, okay? And we're going to copy the website to our local machine. So we're going to log into the server and back up the website, okay? And that's what we need to do for this for the assessment for this course. We need to show that we know how to back up a website. I think it's super easy, but a lot of times you'll be putting in the wrong IP address. And I can tell you an amusing story about a guy once, right? He was sitting in a classroom and he was like, well, I'll open, he had Filezilla, right? And he's like, I've been trying all week to connect Filezilla to the server. And I was like, okay, well, show me what it is that you're doing to connect. So he was like, I'm putting in 192.168.1.10, which was the IP address of the server. And he was putting in his username. Can't remember what his name was. Just say his name was Steve, right? And he was putting in here 24. And I was like, 24? Why are you putting 24 in there? And he said, just because, and I says, SSH is 22, but if you leave it blank, it'll do 22 by default. If you wanted to use plain FTP, you could do 21, but the Linux server would probably block that because the Linux server will have that port closed. And I was like, so why 24? Why port 24? I've never heard of anything. I know Telnet's on port 23, but I've never heard of anyone using 24. And he was like, he said, because on the server, right, when he did IPA, he said, when I look at the IP address, right, it's got /24 after it. So that means it's on port 24. And I was like, nah, it doesn't. No, that doesn't mean port 24. That's the subnet mask, the number of bits in the subnet mask. And he was like, oh, right, so that's not the port number. And I was like, no, that's not the port number. He's like, right. So don't put 24 in there because it's got /24 after it. That's a very silly thing to do. All right, had a little laugh to myself. I also had another group of people once that were like, because I used to have to teach this subject to not networking or cybersecurity students. I used to sometimes have to teach this to software people. And so one time I said, as an exercise, you try and SCP the file across the room to this computer. And so one of them went over and he was like, right. I said, so get the IP address of that computer. So he went over and he was like looking at the IP address and he was like, okay, hold on a second. And he was like, okay, what's your IP address? And he said, my IP address is 127.0.0.1. And the other guy was like, that's my IP address as well. My IP address is 127.0.0.1. And I was like, yeah, okay. And then they were looked on another computer and they were like, this IP address, the IP address of this one's 127. And I said, yeah, that's because that's the loopback address. All the computers have that address. And they were like, oh, okay, fair enough. So, some amusing tales from the past. So what I'll do is I'll stop this recording now because there's no more real theory in this topic, and I'll just stop and see if anyone has any questions about any of this stuff. I'll see if there's anything in the chat first of all. More inclined is all I see from more inclined. Would anyone like to ask any questions about the exciting world of backups and access and WinSCP and SCP?
I do have a question about the Filezilla.
Filezilla, yeah.
I tried to use it. I tried to use it a time ago, but I just got lost in my mind. If, for example, I wanna share a file to you.
Yeah.
How will be the how will be the easiest way to do it with Filezilla?
Just put my IP address in there, username and password, and that's it.
Okay.
But the problem is, right, if you want to share a file with Filezilla, the server or the destination for the file needs to have port 22 open. So it might be more challenging doing it on Windows if you're doing 2 Windows computers. I don't know if the Windows firewall will allow that. You'd have to probably open the port in the Windows firewall. But if you've got a Linux computer like a Raspberry Pi or something, it'll have SSH on by default. We're going to look at how to do SSH in Windows Server next week actually, and it's very complicated. Right, okay, so that's topic 4. Backups and access. So we had a little bit of 7-zip, a little bit of Filezilla, a little bit of different FTP protocols, FTP, SCP, how to do tar, bzip, gzip, gunzip, how to compress files, silly graphics, and how to do tape archive. And I'll make this available to you, and also I'll get this video and put it onto the YouTube playlist as well. And just